Today I'm going to be talking about how to control your emotions, the importance of controlling your emotions, and I'm just going to get into it. So I was reading in Proverbs 25:20. It says, "He that hath no rule over his own spirit is like a city that is broken down and without walls." In the Bible, literally straight out says you need to know how to control your spirit. And of course, we're not going to do this perfectly every time because we're human, and sometimes we're just going to listen to our emotions and react. But it says if you don't have control of your own spirit, you're like a city that's broken down without walls. And if you think about a city without walls, that means anyone can break into it. Anyone can just come in and attack. And that means like any little thing that someone says or does to us is going to cause us to have a reaction and to like explode. And this is something I've definitely seen God's hand in my life in, because when I was like in middle school especially, I would probably say up to like when I was like 14, I was very, very reactive. Like anything that someone would do to me, I would just automatically react, not in a good way. Okay, but before I get into that, I'm going to read the last two verses that are related. So Proverbs 22:24-25 says, "Make no friendship with an angry man, and with the furious man thou shalt not go, lest thou learn his ways and get a snare to thy soul." And then Proverbs 16:32, it says, "He that is slow to anger is better than the mighty, and he that ruleth his spirit than he that taketh a city." So again, it's super important to learn how to have rule over our own spirit, over our emotions, and just like manage them well. If you think about like when you see people reacting, like for example, I see this a lot in Hollywood where like if you see the news, it's like famous people always fighting because they're so quick to react. And a lot of times we do that where if someone says something to us that we don't like, we're quick to react and want to like defend ourselves or want to attack. That's just not a good look, okay? I'm going to say a little story. It's not to make anyone look bad, but it's just to help with this example, okay? So today I was at work. It was like early in the morning, and so I'm a substitute. And now that I'm thinking about it, I'm like, I probably shouldn't say that story. I probably shouldn't share this actually, so I'm not going to share that. I'm going to think of another example. So I'm going to share something that happened to me a while ago that I felt really, really bad about. So I have dogs, right? And I have 2 big dogs, 2 little dogs. And my big dogs, they get excited. Like if they see a dog, they will bark. They're not violent, like they're not aggressive. They're not gonna do anything to the dog, but they are going to bark. And obviously that scares people because the dogs are big. And so there was this one time where I was walking my dog and he was on a leash, and then my neighbor's dog came running to my dog, and it was a small dog, it was not on a leash, and it was barking. So of course that caused my dog to bark. I remember my neighbor, which she's probably like 13 or something. I don't know how old she is, she's young, but she came like running for her dog, and I was holding my dog as tight as I possibly could so he wouldn't like, because he was like jumping up, but he wasn't doing anything to the dog. He was just like triggered because this dog was barking at him. So he was barking back, and he was like standing on like his two feet while I was like holding him back with the leash, right? And so the little girl came running. She's not a little girl, okay? She's like a tween. She came running for her dog, and she was like, "Wait, can you get your dog? Can you get your dog?" And I immediately was upset because I was like, seriously, like, I mean, there's a lot to the story because I don't even need to share that information, but there was a lot of drama with the dogs in like my neighborhood, okay? And there were people that didn't want my dogs, and so it was a little personal to me. And so when this little girl was telling me like, "Can you get your dog?" I immediately reacted. I didn't even think. I just gave my natural response, and I was like, "I have my dog. Like, you should have your dog on a leash." And I gave her attitude, and I was rude, and I felt so bad about it after. But in the moment, I was just annoyed by her, like what she had said, because I was like, I'm doing what I'm supposed to be doing, like, and you're coming to me like complaining about it. So when like she didn't even have her dogs on a leash, if that makes sense. I kept thinking about that. After that interaction, I felt so like embarrassed whenever I would see my neighbor because of the way that I had reacted. I remember thinking like, oh my goodness, like I lost my chance with that girl. Like I could not invite that girl to church because I was so rude to her. And there have been other times where like I've been rude to people and I feel so bad and I go and I apologize, you know? It just shows like how easy it is to like ruin your testimony and be a bad representation of Christ when you react so quickly to something. And had I like controlled my emotions, I would have taken a step back and I would have been like, okay, like this is a young girl. Okay. It's probably not even her fault that her dogs are not on leash. Like she didn't buy the dog, you know? Two, like she's obviously scared of my big dog that's like on his 2 feet right now. So it's normal for her to like tell me to get my dog while she's trying to get her dogs, you know? And so just when you put it into that perspective, it's like, oh girl, like to me, you were rude for literally no reason, you know? I know for me personally, like when I'm rude to people, I feel really bad about it after. And I'm like, I wish I wouldn't have said that. But of course you can't take what you say back. And so that's why it's so important to have a rule over our spirit, over our emotions, so that we're not quick to be angry. And this is definitely something that I've grown in a lot. As I was saying in the beginning of the video, when I was in middle school, I would constantly be fighting with my sisters all the time because if they said something that I didn't like, I would automatically shoot something right back and react just angrily. And our relationship has definitely improved now that I'm kind of like, okay, not everything needs a reaction, not everything needs a response. And of course, just always keeping in mind, like, what would Jesus do? Like, God will help you. Like, again, in my Bible study, I put, whenever I want to react emotionally to something, I will take a step back, recite this Bible verse, which is Proverbs 25:28. Remember that not everything requires a reaction or response, and representing Jesus is more important than my ego. Okay, because when we react, the way that I reacted to that little girl, that was me wanting to be right, me defending myself, like saying, what are you talking about? Like, you put your dogs on a leash, you know? And so, like, it is your ego. It's you wanting to be right. I already said that. Yeah, it's not easy, especially in the moment during those difficult times. But, like, I think about the times that I have controlled my tongue and controlled my spirit and my emotions to things that did hurt me or did make me feel upset. And I look back on those moments and I'm proud. I'm like, wow, like I'm happy that I was the bigger person in that situation. I'm happy that I didn't do this or say this or act like this, you know? All that to say that it's really important then that we work on controlling our emotions and not being so reactive to everything, because again, the most important thing is to represent Jesus and be a light. And if you're like in your daily living reacting to every little thing that someone does to you, it's going to be hard to like open up a door to share Jesus with them. And so like sometimes things are just let them go. You don't even need to like okay, someone was rude. Okay, like they probably had a bad morning, you know, and it's not to excuse them, but it's like you don't need to always react is what I'm saying. And when you have control over your emotions, the Bible says that you are mightier than he that taketh over a city. It's a good thing to learn. Ask God for wisdom and for guidance and for strength to do that. And I hope you learned something, and I hope you have a good day.